Hey guys, it's TF Nut. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing another action figure review. This time it's going to be of the relatively new Hasbro Marvel Legends series Spider-Man No Way Home final version of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Final suit, final swing, whatever you want to call it. It is the very end of the movie version of Spider-Man where he has that suit for like 30 seconds during the final swing. So I just wanted to talk really quick while the 360 of the packaging here is going on, which it's really easy to look at the whole packaging with this blister card here, but that way. I really have not gotten that many Marvel Legends this year. I would be surprised if I make a top 10 favorites of the year with how little I've gotten Marvel Legends. I just really haven't dug them this year, unfortunately. This wave included just because I really didn't like a lot of what I was seeing here. Not that I thought that they were horrible figures, but the fact that they swapped out all the sets of hands that Toby and Andrew's figures should have just because they're coming with alternate heads is really scummy if you ask me, because they're trying to make you buy the Hasbro Pulse 3-pack. And also the fact, have you guys been noticing that a lot of these Spider-Man figures no longer are in Build-A-Figure waves and they're on blister cards and they're still the same price without Build-A-Figure pieces as the figures with BAF pieces? It's a little weird to me. I mean, I guess it's not as much of a commitment, so you can pick and choose whatever you want with Spider-Man figures, I guess. But, I don't know, just been really weirded out by Hasbro stuff. I just really have not been digging their stuff this year, if I'm being quite honest. But that is my tiny little soapbox I'm about to get off. I do think this figure looks really nice. I picked it up at my local Target. Packaging here also does look very cool. Here's a 360 of the figure. I haven't messed around with the other accessories too much yet, but honestly, not a bad figure. A couple things about it with like certain Marvel Legends, related to this one that I'm not loving, but it's not a bad figure. Let's go ahead and take a look at the accessories, then we'll take a close look at the figure. So I know I say this all the time, but I really am trying to make this review as quick as possible. I got a lot of personal things going on, unfortunately, including, the end of the year being kind of stressful. So I'm going to try to get this done quick. The accessories here are rather nice. It comes with everything you really need for a Spider-Man figure. The head sculpt here, the masked head, really digging it. There, you'll tell, face on right there. You see the webs are not painted on there, unfortunately, on the right in between the eyes. A little bit of mismatched paint in some areas. It's a slightly sloppy paint job, but I've seen worse on a Marvel Legends figure. I will say, the eyes, is that white plastic? Yeah, that's white paint. Okay, so that's not great either. I can maybe get that off. The eyes are painted on here, very nice, but there was two of these at my local Target, and one of them had really bad paint quality on one of the eyes. So, results may vary, of course. The texturing, though, around the head, you can see a lot of texturing there. Actually looking pretty nice. And I will pop this on later when we do the detail portion, excuse me. The figure comes packaged with fists, so we have these flipping hands. I have no idea if these are reused from other Tom Holland Spider-Man hands. These actually look newer to me. They look a little small. At least the fingers look a little small or a little short. And then the palm looks a little wide. But the paint work is a little bit sloppy. But at least they do have actual like sculpted detail on here. So, and like the texturing is really nice too. And then we have these open palm hands as you see here, which also have some texturing. The paint is actually not too bad. It could be a little bit better. But I, again, have seen pretty worse on some different Marvel Legends. Now, I do want to go ahead and show you some images of what the different accessories look like on the figure. I'm not going to have enough time to do a ton of photos at the end, so really I'm just going to pick and choose which accessories I'm going to be showing off at the end of the video. But I wanted to give you guys an idea of what the different hands and the different head sculpt looks like on the figure right now. So, I really can't say to be sure, even though I reviewed this 2-pack last year, but I'm pretty sure that this head sculpt is from the Peter Parker and Ned 2-pack from last year. I reviewed it, but why am I saying I can't be sure? Well, if I'm not being any more of a doomer about Marvel Legends, I'm letting you guys know. Throughout like the past year, if I just straight up don't love a Marvel Legends figure or don't think I absolutely need it, I will 100% return it. And that was the same thing with the 2-pack, unfortunately, when that came out. Not that it was god-awful, I just really wasn't digging it after I reviewed it. But I'm pretty sure that this head sculpt is reused from that, and I don't really blame them for doing it because I do like this head sculpt, actually. Part of me thinks it's a little bit raised up a bit and a little bit big. It might be because it's sitting a little too high. But, I mean, I've seen worse Tom Holland head sculpts from them in the past. So, honestly, really not a bad choice to include this one here. And if you didn't get that 2-pack, then you have this head sculpt now. And I'm in the middle of moving also, so I don't have the, I think it was the Far From Home, like, upgraded suit unmasked head. I don't have that one right now on me, sadly. Not a bad looking head again. Let's bring in an image of Tom Holland just to show you guys really quick. If it's the same as last time, then they did a pretty good job at making this look like Tom Holland. The hair sculpt and a little bit of variation where there's a little bit of light. Actually, there's a lot of light brown in here. You can tell where the dark molded brown is compared to the painted on lighter brown. Really digging that. The eyes, like all that, like sometimes the face printing looks a little fuzzy, but it really doesn't look that bad here. I'm really digging that. I do want to talk about this because I'm going to pop on the masked head for the rest of the review, but this is like him, sitting or standing straight up pretty much. Maybe push that back a little bit. I feel like the way that they've cut this out, it's a little too curved, like too much plastic going towards the front. There really is no forward motion when we get to articulation because of that. So the back, is actually kind of hindered still. And then forward, with this head at least, it's not too bad, but you can see it wants to push back a little bit. And it should look down way more than it does. And you really don't get any push down at all with this head. So I think that unfortunately, the articulation is going to be disappointing in the head when he needs to look down really far and look up really far. However, I showed off a couple images a second ago, but this head does look pretty good on here. Again, it might be a tiny bit too big, but it's really, it looks nice and it's all very color accurate. I mean, not a surprise because, they usually don't mess up the colors. Like this being accurate with this, the rest of the body. So that's nice. It all fits together really well. I do think that the overall texturing on the red, I think it's really well done. There's not much for me to talk about with it. Throughout the whole figure, you're going to get this little bit of texturing. It's a little hard to see because the more I try to focus. There we go. You kind of actually get it a little bit in the elbow right there. And that's not easy to get in with that little piece of plastic that they have to sculpt on. So yeah, all of that texturing looking really good. And I do think that the web lines painted on here, while it could be better in some areas, it's really not that bad in others. I do think this ugly red seam line is not amazing though. Yeah, I mean, you really got to look hard to see where some of it is. And once you do see it, like around here, that separation that shouldn't be there, it is a little distracting, but far away you're really not going to be able to tell. It gets a little choppy right here around the stomach. A little bit of black bleeding onto the hips there. But nothing's too bad. And I didn't really go into detail about the fists here. The fists, I think they might be a tiny bit too small. I think all the hands might be a tiny bit too small, but they still look pretty nice. And the shiny blue that they got going on here is actually really nicely done. It's not that much of paint apps being applied, but it's still really nice. Unfortunately, you get some red chopped up here. The pinless tech is nice, but I will go over articulation in a second, but it is rather tight in the joints because of that. And the spider logo, I didn't really mention yet. This looks fantastic. I have no problems with how that's painted and sculpted. That looks great. I mean, I think there might be actually a tiny bit of red on what the head would be, but that's not bad at all. Musculature, really nicely done, where you have the abs and the ribs. When we get to the back here, it's actually a little bit sloppy right there, but it's really not too bad. A little bit of red bleeding onto the blue on that one. And then they sculpted it so if you push it forward more, it's a little bit more continued. When you push back, it's not as much, but that's the limitation of how the action figure is going to be. Again, really nice, like very glittery type of blue. Not super duper glittery, honestly, but definitely glittery enough type of blue. Kind of as accurate as I think it can be to how his suit was done at the very end of the movie. And again, muscles are really nice. I do think that it gets a little marbly around the legs here, and I think that the hips stick out a little bit. The drop down system here is nice, but it drops down a little too much. So it kind of likes to stay like this to where there's a big gap in the hips, unfortunately. And you push that up, it kind of hides it. Getting down to the knees, again, the pinless tech hides a lot of, the pins, of course. I mean, that's the name of the game. But we'll get to articulation again. But the knees were really tight on this guy, so be careful with that. That's just how it happens with pinless tech. While I appreciate pinless tech, it's usually really, really, really tight to where sometimes I feel like I'm going to break it. I forgot to mention that. Up here is also really tight in this rotation. And then we get down to, these part of the boots around the shins. I do think the paint's a little bit sloppy up here. Not too bad on the texturing, though. The web lines do look really nice, I gotta say again, down here. And they even have it on the feet. I think the feet look a little, I don't know, they look fine, I guess. Part of me, like, straightforward, they look a little too flat, but I think that could just be some type of weird type of angle going on there. They look fine. The whole thing is just a really solid figure for a unique body mold, of course. Lightning fast articulation around, dumbbell joint going up here. Can't really go down at all. Side to side is not too bad. Rotation is just fine. We do have butterfly joints there, which does have some details continued there. Arms go all the way around. They can go out that much. Actually really nice. Upper arm swivel, double jointed elbows, swivel at the wrist. Hinge at the wrist is for all sets of hands. Ball jointed waist. It's actually feeling not too tight now. So side to side, forward, back, like that. And then rotation. And you have this ab crunch here. Not great forward. Seam lines on this is just really ugly, if you ask me. It's not the end of the world. The drop down again, which is a little loose on mine, but it kicks out all the way straight. You can get not really a full split, unfortunately, but not too bad. Upper thigh swivel. This is more of a budge here. These budged a lot more, so we do get a full double jointed knee. Down, up, ankle rocker. While I am still packing out of this apartment, I do have a couple figures laying around. Measurements, as you see here, around 15 centimeters. He's going to be a little bit shorter than, adult characters, of course, and he's about 6 inches tall. Left is going to be the Retro Spidey from 2020. On the right, first ever Black Series Mando. I think he scales pretty well with Marvel Legends, at least adult-sized Marvel Legends, I guess. He's going to be a little bit shorter than Mando. And now that I'm looking at it head-on, I do want to say that the arms look a little too long. I think they should be a little bit based on his character. I really don't know, but I do think the arms are a little bit too long, so proportions there are a little off. Overall, I definitely sounded like a downer during this review. I do apologize. I have some personal things going on, but I still wanted to review this. And, even though I really haven't been digging Hasbro stuff throughout the whole year, I really don't think that this is a bad figure. It's just far from perfect, unfortunately. I will say, it's got its common Marvel Legends thing. Sometimes the paint isn't great on this. The web lines are a little bit mismatched. A couple of specks in some areas. But for a mass-produced product, honestly, I've seen way worse web lines on different Spider-Man figures. This one's not too bad, especially the fact that they have to get the web lines on the sculpted details. It's really not that bad here. I think proportions might be a little bit off. The arms might look a little too long. Legs kind of look short, too. The feet look a little short, and the heads look a little bit too big. Maybe they're just a little too raised up. But I do like that this comes with a full set of accessories that Spider-Man figures should have, unlike the retail versions of Tobey and Andrew, unfortunately. I do think that the articulation overall is really nice, save for a few loose joints, as well as the pinless tech making the joints a little too tough to move, unfortunately. But honestly, if this was the Tamashii Nations release, which is like upwards of like $90, of course, I'd be mad about some of the issues here. This being a $25, wide re-release, it's really not that bad. Again, far from perfect, but I've seen worse. If you're looking for this one, it's a little bit, well, depending on the retailer, it's still up for pre-order some places. It's a little bit harder to get on Amazon, but I found this for retail at my local Target. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment down below what you think about the figure, what you think about the review. Leave a like, share, mix to friends. Follow me on Instagram for more content over there, and I'll see you guys later.